What's up? This is Renz at Why I Left Religion, Coach Renz. And for everybody who's watching this on TikTok, if you want to see the video in its entirety, go over to YouTube. Subscribe, hit the bell icon. So somebody on TikTok sent me a message, and they said that the Catholic Church are worshipers of Dagon, and that Christianity is a worship of Dagon. Well, they didn't necessarily say Christianity was a worship of Dagon, but they talked about the Catholic Church, that they worship Dagon. But I would suffice it to say that if the Catholic Church worship Dagon, then so does all of Christianity. Now, I understand that part of the reason why he may have said this is because the Catholic priest, the Pope, wears the mitre. I think that's what it's called, which is a fish hat. And when you look at Dagon, Dagon is a god of the sea. He's the god of fertility. He's a creator god to the Semitic people, the Canaanite people. Now, of course, not all of them. We'll get into that a little bit later when we talk about Baal and El and Asherah, and we're going to talk about Joseph, I think, towards the end, and his interpretation of the Pharaoh's dream. We're going to talk about how they changed some of your Old Testament to move away from Baal. But as far as Dagon is concerned in Christianity, if Dagon is the progenitor, the true God of Christianity, of the Catholics, then he's the true God of all Christianity. Because you have to remember that the Council of Nicaea, when the Orthodox Christians who was put in charge of all of Christianity by Constantine came into power, because Orthodox Christians were in his army, they were also in the army of Maxentius, to which he had defeated at the Bridge of Moldova. If they were worshippers of Dagon, if they were, which would also make them worshippers of Baal, then all of Christianity would still be worshiping the same. The reason being is because all of Christianity has its roots in what began with the Catholic Church in 325. No matter how many reformations you have had, Protestant reformations, breaking away as Baptists, Methodists, AMEs, and all these other divisions of Christianity, for a religion that has only one God and one truth, there are certainly multiple divisions, over 40,000 of them. But Dagon. Dagon was a fertility god, a god of the sea. I had to go back into my notes and find what I had wrote about Dagon a while back. Dagon had invented the plow. It was all about the grain. Actually, the word Dagon in Hebrew means grain, because grain was what was needed to sustain life, to feed the animals, and so on and so forth. But now understand, within the region of the Levant, the Semitic people, Canaanite meaning a people group, and then divisions within that: Hebrews, Amorites, Hittites, and people of Moab, Moabites. All of these are Semitic people. About 1500 years, but in around 1800 BCE, 1500 BCE, all these groups generally worship two major gods. One of two major gods, I should say. There was Dagon, and then there was El. El was considered, and Dagon was considered, the father of all the gods. Many of you who are Christian or Muslim or Jew right now may be thinking that El, Yahweh, Jehovah, Allah was the only God, and that the other one was an idol. But according to ancient Hebrew, to which all your Abrahamic religions come from, El had a wife. Now that wife's name was Asherah. Now many people are going to say that Asherah meant a pole or a stick that El used. But in the ancient Hebrew, back around 1800 BCE, Asherah was El's wife. As a matter of fact, Asherah was his wife to the extent that when you find the ancient Hebrew temples, they had a worship pole, which Asherah still does mean a pole, but had a worship pole, one tall, one small, one for El, one for Asherah. And their deity, their symbol, their idolatry, their statues were placed on top of it for worship. So it was polytheistic. As a matter of fact, in the older stories that we find in the tablets and the scrolls found at Rashama, they supposedly had 70 children. Now, that number 70 comes into play, doesn't it? Because when you think about the Septuagint is written by 70 elders. The number 70 has its meanings, but it goes back to the 70 godchildren of El and Asherah. Now, if you were these Semitic people, and the Phoenicians were also these Semitic people, the Phoenicians and the Moabites and the Amorites, they also worshiped Dagon. And later on, they moved from Dagon to the worship of Baal, because Baal was Dagon's son, and Baal took over from Dagon. Baal became the creator god, the god of fertility, the god of grain, and his name also meant Lord, or owner, or key of the gods. This is why in your older Old Testaments, the fourth son of Saul was named Ishbaal. But around the 8th century, when Hosea started changing things in the Old Testament, and yes, things were changed, the word Bashet meant shame. And since Saul, especially Ishbaal, went against David, had an issue with David, Ishbaal's name changed to Ishbosheth. And also because the name Jezebel, the woman Jezebel with the Phoenicians, because her name, the end of her name Jezebel, and sometimes Baal is pronounced Bel and is spelled B-E-A-L, then they wanted to distance themselves from that worship of Baal, from the name of Baal, and from Jezebel. So of course Ishbaal was changed to Ishbosheth. Also Gideon, who's also is known as Jerubbaal, became less and less known as Gideon. And I'm going to do a whole video about some stuff that Gideon and Hosea and all these guys were saying, and their cruelty. That'll be a different video. But let's go back to Baal and this worship of the Catholic Church. If they worship Dagon, then they worship Baal. And you can find some of these things within your Bible, told in different stories. One of those ways that this story is told is that within the text that was found at Rashama was the story of how Baal and one of El and Asherah's sons, Mot, were in a constant battle. And to understand this story fully, you have to know that Baal's symbol was the bull, the ram, and a lightning bolt. But primarily the bull. This is why its symbol has the horns with the little person face on the top. Now when you understand that they was in this constant battle. Now Mot was the god of infertility, of famine, of death. Whereas Baal was the god of life and fertility. Grain. They had this battle. So Baal is fighting Mot, the son of El. Therefore, when you say that Baal was just an idol god, not a real god, according to your ancient Hebrew stories, they had communications with each other. Matter of fact, they had such communication that Baal, who was married to his sister Aneth, which is also his, so he had a sister wife, when he was married to her, that he went and he pleaded with Asherah to convince Baal to allow him to build a great palace in his honor. Sounds like humans that were deified to a certain degree. But it also sounds like Sumerian stories with Enlil, Enki, and Harsag and Inanna. So they had these communications. Baal and Mot are having this battle, this fight. And this is where you're going to start remembering something. Baal, if he won the battle with Mot, that's spelled M-O-T, then there will be 7 years of plenty But if Mott won, there will be 7 years of famine. What does this sound like? Does it not sound like your story with Joseph after he's put in prison by Potiphar's wife because of the lies she told on him? And he sits in jail, and he's a great interpreter of dreams. And then one of I think it's the bread maker of Pharaoh, remembers him. And when no one can interpret Pharaoh's dream of seeing 7 healthy fat cows, Baal, and 7 thin famine cows, Mott, not my yacht, Mott, that Joseph was able to interpret that dream. Either the story is borrowed from the battle between Baal and Mott, or Joseph understood and recognized, whether he worshipped the Baal or not, but he understood and recognized, but at least gave a level of credence to the battle, believed that Baal and Mott had this constant battle of 7 years of famine and 7 years of plenty. If you say the story is real, that Joseph actually existed, then quid pro quo, you have to believe that Joseph also believed that Baal and Mott and Asherah and the other 69 children gods of Asherah and El all existed, were all gods that were real. And it's not a surprise, since Joseph's family comes from Abraham, and Abraham was originally a Sumerian who would have worshipped the Sumerian gods, as plural, worship Enlil, which Enlil becomes El. Enlil had a wife, so Asherah was that wife, known as, I forgot what her name was in the Sumerian. And this was a very, and you gotta understand, the worship of Baal and Asherah, Mott, and El was known to the Egyptians from 1400 BCE to about 1075 BCE. That was the peak of their worship within the Egyptian community. So the Egyptians would have known about this as well. So it would have been familiar to the Egyptians. And because those people at that day, unlike how we do today we're not accepting of other people's religions, of other people's belief. But back then they were accepting of other people's gods and other people's belief, and they believed that they all existed. It's just not the ones they worshiped themselves. It's not the ones they called out to. But they believed that all of the gods existed. So yes, when you say that they worship Dagon, and remember El was also a vegetation god back then. Asherah was the moon goddess. She was also the mother goddess. They could have easily sided with Dagon, combined all of them together so that the people could just worship one God, which is more than likely is what the story is. But we see how they changed the wording in there, changed Ishbaal's name to Ishbosheth. We see how Dagon had a son, Baal. Baal is a god of fertility, and fertility is vital to the people of that community. We see how him and Mott had these battles of 7 years of famine and 7 years of plenty that Joseph incorporated. This is incorporated into the Joseph story. So is it possible that to this day, all Christianity is the continued worship of Dagon, or the continued worship of Baal, or the continued worship of El and Asherah? Personally, I think it's the worship of all of them, because all religion is nothing but a belief system developed by a culture of that day, of their day, based on their understanding of nature and the best way that they can explain nature. Or if they saw some aliens come down and afforded them the title of God because of their higher technology. So I hope that answers your question. I look forward to doing more videos. If you really like this video, like, subscribe. If you want to donate to the channel, hit the heart comment button, and it'll allow you to donate to the channel. So I greatly appreciate you guys. I look forward to doing live videos real soon. Had a lot going on in my life, but we're getting things squared away right now. So y'all have a great day, and remember, you have to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable.